Hey there, it's Jonathan and I'm here with a new tutorial today. Today's tutorial will be over how to create an ambient occlusion pass, either to implement into your scene or to use for a demo reel breakdown effect. And for this specific tutorial, I'm mainly gearing it for the reel breakdown effect. Now, so I had a friend of mine who sent me this video and he wanted to ask how to get that specific effect. So let me show you. So there's several ways to actually do that, but one of the easiest ways to do it on the fly is what I'm going to show you. So basically what we're looking at here is an ambient occlusion pass. It's where the light kind of deteriorates in corners and stuff like that, where the light can't bounce as well. Same under there. Also in the back they have no background, so they just left it black. That sometimes you see that different on different demo reels. Also here, they added a little bit of their own artistic flair and kept some of the blue with the water. For this tutorial, I won't be doing anything like that. They have it up here too. So that's what we're basically going to try and do. And I have another breakdown, just what I'm creating today, and I'll show you this real quick. Okay, as you can see, not as ideal as working on something like this. I mean, I don't have a ton of particles we're moving through or a building, but it does pull the point through. See, you get the ambient occlusion pass on it. I also used a Lambert Pass to kind of mix everything together. So also they did a feathered edge in their mask, but for tutorial's sake, I just left it as that. So let's go ahead and jump into Maya real quick. It's just a goofy little animation I got going on here. Same scene. Okay. So basically what you want to do is after your scene is set up, you want to go and really what you're going to deal with for this type of ambient occlusion and to get that breakdown effect is in render layers. There are other ways that you can do it if you actually go up. You could change some of the settings that deal with the lights that are in the scene, but sometimes that can be render intensive to somebody who doesn't have a high-end computer. Also dealing with something like what they have, that's millions of particles, that's fluid effects, and that's actually in Houdini, which I'm not 100% sure of how they achieve that within the program, the water effect that is. So you know, even that itself is going to be render intensive. So let's dive right in. So I got this goofy little animation real quick. Already done. Scene's already done. We're just going to pretend that that's not what we're working on. So it's over here that we want to look at. And I have two different layers. So the first one is the master layer. And all I did here is I went and I selected all objects in the layer and I created a new pass. Now for this, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. There's no need to recreate it all. So right here, I just simply attached the Lambert to everything. And I'll show you what's attached to all of this is simply just a Lambert midway through the color, because we can change that in After Effects. Nothing else touched. The reason why is because when you go and render it out, it has just the grayscale. And that's all I want. And it also has the alpha channel with it. So I'm going to leave it like that. So that's one render layer. And then we have the occlusion render layer. This is the one that I'll show you. So you select everything in the layer, make a new layer, and you'd probably want to rename it Occlusion Pass. And then you'll right click, go down to attributes, and it's really simple beyond this point. Go to presets, select them presets, and go down to occlusion. And as you see, it'll take everything in the scene and apply a surface shader to it. Now I'm going to click the arrow to go into the settings. First I'll render out one little take. Alright, as you can see, the ambient occlusion is working, but it's really spread out and it's also very grainy. So what you want to do at this point is change the samples to whatever works for your project. So I personally like to keep it a dividend of 2. Maya works well with attributes like that, so maybe just go with 64. And then the spread is what allows the lack of light, I guess you could say. For this scene, I'll probably bring it down to 0.3 to test it out. So let's save that image, render a new one. Alright, as you can see, the shadow's a little bit more tightened up and a lot less grainy as compared to the last one. That's more the effect that I'm going for. You could spread it out a little bit just to make it a little bit more apparent, but for this, it's fine. Now, while this is up, I want to explain why I'm rendering out a Lambert layer as well. The reason why is because when you're doing just the Occlusion Pass, you'll lose all of the edge detail, basically. So, when you bring it into After Effects, we'll look here. What I have going on here is I have the Occlusion Pass mixed with the Beauty Pass, I guess you could say, or the master layer. That was your final render to begin with. And then here I have the, well, I called it the Diffuse Pass, but that was the Lambert mixed with the Ambient Occlusion Pass. And then of course I have just a light gray solid in the back. So all you really need to do at this point is line it up where you need it. So what I did here is I added a mask and I just animated it going across. And actually I could increase the feather if I wanted to. That way it's a little smoother as it goes across. Kind of like in the Houdini demo reel breakdown. And so for the Occlusion Pass, I simply just overlaid it, multiply, and I set the opacity to 50%. And I just pressed T on the keyboard in case if you guys didn't know that. You can press T to get to the opacity. So if you crank it up, it might be a little too much. Let me get it where it's over here. See, it makes it a little too dark for what I'm wanting, so I'm going to go with 50%. Just a little light touch. And so basically, in the Ambient Occlusion Pass that you're wanting to show in the breakdown, it's essentially the same thing, except it might be a little bit backwards. What I did here is I actually have the Occlusion Pass by itself, right here, and then I put the Diffuse Pass on top of it, and I didn't put any mode on it or anything like that, and I just simply brought down the opacity to 23%. If it's set to that, you can see that's the Lambert Pass that I rendered out. I could have the Occlusion Pass on top, but since the Occlusion Pass is actually already white, that's actually what I was going to do with the Diffuse Pass. I was going to maybe change the levels and bring it up a little bit. I felt like it worked out just fine to set it to 23%. And that gives you that effect. And you end up with that. Cool, so just a real quick recap. Again, it's not, I hope it doesn't sound as difficult as it sometimes can sound. But simply you grab the master layer, you select all the objects in the layer, you add it to a new render layer, and then in that layer you change it to where it's all a Lambert, and then the next one you right click and go to attributes, and you go to presets, and you simply put on the Occlusion Pass. And then there's one last thing I would like to touch on is in the Lambert Pass, go to attributes. Now this is only if you are wanting to render something out that does have lights in the scene, but you don't want the shadows cast. But you still need the outline of the objects essentially. So what you can do is, instead of having the under render pass options, instead of having beauty selected, make sure that's deselected and diffuse is selected. What that will end up doing is it will ignore the shadows cast onto objects. So if I had a light up here in this area casting down onto the letters, there would be a shadow cast behind them. And so essentially I don't want that. So I make sure to go to here and just make sure that's selected. Also, you could go to presets and select diffuse. That does set it up for you, but this is just to let you know the different areas. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching this video. Please subscribe, give a thumbs up if you liked the video, and comment down below and let me know what you think and if you have any questions at all.